Hi everyone, thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate this wonderful turnout, and we do have a handout and we're making more copies, so we appreciate your patience. So on behalf of the counseling department, we appreciate your time tonight, and we are really pleased to welcome Cooney Lesko from the College of St. Rose to present tonight our essay workshop. We're anticipating this workshop to be about 45 minutes or so, Katie? Yeah. And along the way, Katie, you want to take questions, or you want to have questions to the end, or how would you like to?
We can do questions at the end.
Questions at the end. So we're going to ask that you hold questions, and Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect.
And thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
So as Candace said, my name is Cooney Lesko, and everyone can hear me in the back and all. Raise my hand if my voice trails. Just raise your hand and I will speak louder. I have been in the admissions office at St. Rose since December, and I've been in the college admissions world for the last 17 years. So I've had my chance to read essays in many capacities. At the different institution that I worked at, I was connected to the honors program, read files for the HEOP program, and we're able to read athletic applications as well as some specialty programs. And then at St. Rose, I've taken on this position, and it's a little bit more of the strategic piece, but I'm never too far away from a really good essay. And as I said to my boss when I left today, this part of what I do keeps me motivated. When I'm looking at numbers and trying to figure out all of the demographic shifts in the Northeast, essentially what I absolutely love to do is talk to people about what makes an application special and unique. So the first thing that I'm going to do is give you, as long as the clicker is working, give you a little context. So an essay is not in and of itself. And I think that's one of the most important things that all of you can walk away with. An essay will never get you in without any other supporting documents. And most of us know that, but some of us ask those questions anyways, and it makes sense. Because what we're trying to do is figure out how the essay is weighted among the different credentials. Or what does the essay really mean? And so that's why we say things like, well, will an essay get you in? And it won't, only. Typically in the world of college admissions, these are your completed applications. Or this is what completes an application. The application itself, which gives us demographic information, tells us about your family, what your academic interests are, major you want to be, maybe career interests. It'll give us a snapshot of activities that you've done, how long you've done them, whether you had honors or like a leadership role within that. Your letter of recommendation is typically coming from a school counselor. That's going to give you the context of who you are as a community member, what kind of academic qualities that you possess in a classroom setting, if it's a teacher recommendation. The high school transcript, as you know, gives us a snapshot about your academics. How have you done over the last 3 years? What are you strong at? What are you weak at? Weak in. What did you like the teacher? You can tell that from grades. So the high school transcript gives us the academic fit. The essay, the testing, the extracurricular activities, the resume, all of that kind of fits the puzzle, right? Puts the pieces together. And at the end, the goal is for your application to tell the admissions counselor something. Each of these pieces tell us something. And the essay is not any different. The question is, what should the essay tell us? The answer is whatever you want us to know. So I always have to reverse it back to you, because I think what we're looking for in many times is there's a perfect essay. And the perfect essay is someone that has taken time, that has really thought about the question, has reflected their answer in a way that gets a piece of them across and supports the other documents that are submitted. So I call them the SAPs. You'll notice, see the bar, this is essay prompts. we're gonna go through 6 P's of the essay, right? So instead of the SATs, get it? Laugh with me, thank you, come on, right? So it's the SAPs, there's prompts, preparedness, we're gonna talk about some pitfalls, some proofreading, and there's one more P, and we'll get there. So the prompts. The essay question, I handed out a sheet, and thank you for making extra copies. There's a lot of you here, which is awesome. The prompts are typically College Board. There's other applications students can apply with. That's the application prompt. You will also get colleges having specific questions on their own application. So what I handed out were the general questions. Colleges will ask their own questions. You'll also maybe have an honors scholarship program you might apply to, or a specialized program that you have to specifically answer the question in order to apply to that specialized program for review. But generally they are broken down, whether they're short answer or writing sample, they're broken down into kind of 3 types. And this is off the College Board website, but it makes sense, right? So it's why you, right? Like what type of essay, it'll talk about why you should be in college. A lot of the Common App questions really is like why you, right? What value system. When the colleges have specific questions about their college and you, they're really breaking it into why us? Why should you come to the school? Why is it that you want to be at our school in whatever question it could be? And the last one being creative, because that's a free form. A lot of times a statement of purpose, topic of your choice. Students have submitted poetry, students have submitted video essays are now kind of a thing, right? And so you're able to, the creative one is allowing you to take away the why and really just think about what you want to share. You should do that for all of them, but the creative one gives a little bit less of a form. Some students can handle that because they get it. Some students need those questions and need to follow the structure. And it really, if you do the self-reflection, you're able to figure out what question is going to be best for you. The next piece to it we'll talk about is your purpose as the last P. Is your purpose, the essay's purpose. So one of the things that I think people forget is it's not just the admissions office that reads an essay. Who else reads essays? I'm asking. Anybody? Yep.
Maybe the president of the school.
A president of the school could read an essay. If the scholarship was from the president of the school of the school could read an essay. Absolutely. Who else? I kind of gave you a hint. I'm hearing these things. Talk a little loud. Anybody? Department head. Department head? Absolutely. Faculty? Yes.
Anyone offering a scholarship?
Anyone offering a scholarship. Financial aid can read your college essay. Your first year advisor can read your college essay because it's part of the application. So the essay actually is something that can stay with you throughout the process, not just to get into the college, but once you choose that college, that essay can be connected with you in your first year experience. When you're sitting with your advisor, they might read that to find out something else about you. They might read that to see what your interests are or to see how your writing is. The department heads is an interesting, and the faculty are interesting as an audience because you're really not writing for them, but some of the colleges that you'll apply to, they are admitting into specialized programs, or they are admitting the students in addition to the admissions office. So it's always good that when you're putting your list together and putting your applications together to ask who might be reading these essays. And the admissions office would know. The purpose is pretty clear if you take time to think about it. It comes in with sincerity, the thoughtfulness, the intellect, meaning not how smart you are, but if you can craft a written response. The idea behind this is that you really need to do the work to think about what matters to you. And a lot of time, the topics that you'll go through on that list, it might be sports that come up, it might be a parent, it might be theater, it might be losing the election, it might be winning the election, right? For student government, to show those different aspects of your life. It might be work, a problem you had at work. All of those are topics that you should be writing about. Absolutely. Going through the rest of the P's are what will make your essay different. Because many students are writing about athletics. The game-winning catch. Many students are writing about losing the election or winning the election, or the day that they went to boys' state or girls' state, Boy Scout camp. I have read a variety of essays that have similar topics because most of us are kind of going through that 17-year-old lifestyle. And there's not huge roadblocks that happen to most of us. Other students have bigger personal connections to write about, whether it's a parent's divorce or a death of someone close to them. How you take that topic and present it is really important to talk about who you are versus how that event happened. We write in process a lot of times, so we write about the event that happened. Most of those questions are going to ask you about some event. So we write in a he said, she said kind of way. This happened, that happened, this happened. I always say get it out, get that writing out. And when you get to the bottom, that last paragraph, when you summarize it, many times can be the first paragraph of that next really good essay that you're going to write. Because you have to get the system of writing done before you can get creative. To really pull out what's your value from that incident. What's your thoughtfulness out of that incident? What do you feel because of it? How have you changed because of it? But in order to do that, you have to practice. I feel sometimes like when I do this essay workshop, I feel like you're a ninth grade English teacher. Just have an English teacher, because traditional standard rules of writing apply when writing a college essay. They can be some of your best resources, because we don't throw things out the window. What you're doing is trying to recall some of those items that you've learned along the way. So you're going to review all the questions, see which one fits, brainstorm, ask your parents, ask your friends. This is an opportunity to not let your parent write the essay for you, but an opportunity to include them in on the process. You want to write it, you want feedback, you want to edit it, and then you want to let it sit. That is why this is a process. You want to come back and visit it again, edit it, see what you were thinking, see how it's looking, does it change? And then you want to finish it and be done. Sometimes the hardest part about writing is being done with writing. So you have to know that it's good, because you've worked through this process. The last thing before you finish it, so let it rest, and then ask someone to read and say, what does this say about me? That question, if the answer is, it says that you really respect your parents, you really loved your grandmother, you really enjoy baseball. If that's what is being told, gotta keep working at it. Because things like, you can take a small incident and really learn from that, are some of the other things that you want to be answered when someone says, what did I learn about you? I learned that you don't take things for granted, that you really are thoughtful when you're coaching, you really prepare before you go into your activities. I learned that you can keep going. But do you see the difference? I learned that you decided to start the history club at school because sitting at your grandfather's table really mattered. That history story really mattered to you, so you did this project in school. If you start to use this sentence when you're thinking about your essay, it becomes powerful. It's different. It doesn't mean that you can't use the same topic that other students are using, but it definitely becomes a different experience to read it. So my favorite essay starts with, my number is 11,542. Anybody? What's 11,542? Yeah.
Is that the number you are when you enter a specific college, you don't refer to you as your name, you just refer to you as the number?
Great. The question, or the answer was, is it a number of a student ID because they don't refer you to it as a name, but they refer to you as a number? Great answer. That's not it. My number was 11,552, something along those lines. Anybody? Yes. SAT score. There's too many numbers on that one, but could be something like that. Because that has to be out to 1,600, but it could be something along those lines. A testing score, a number that you took when you went, the date that you took the test. Amount of essays I read in my career. No, that would be my number, right? I actually have more than that. Thank you for aging me young. No. It's the student wrote it. So I'll tell you, when I read that number and then I read the essay, I had to go back and check my phone to figure out how many text messages I sent in 1 month. Mine's 5,000, and I work on my phone. 11,542 text messages in 1 month. Right? So I kind of figured it out, and I used to know the number off the top of my head, but I figured out that this student was like boom, 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 right? It had to be on silent. We all know we do this, right? You keep it on silent because the noise annoys you. My theory is just turn it on and then maybe you'll stop texting. No. But this was her number. The essay went on to explain a lot of serious and truly reflective experiences of what she missed in her family because that was her number. Right? So she missed the fact that her little brother was doing something else and she missed this. And then she started to talk a little bit about how she kind of had a compassionate heart for people with addiction. And she didn't say she was addicted, but she understood, right? So she didn't make her obsessiveness with her phone a larger than life issue. But at least she kind of said, you know what? I get this now. I understand how people can go through some things like this. And thank God I stopped myself earlier because my parents took my phone away, et cetera, et cetera. The essay could have been the day my parents took my phone away. I said this, they said this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The fight at the dinner table, because we all know that it happens. And next thing you know, the end of the essay in the one paragraph is this summary of, I learned a lot of lessons about having my phone taken away, and I'm very appreciative to my parents for doing that, and I am able to be more connected with my family, period. Instead, and you could tell, this student really worked at how to creatively express and what other things in life were connected to this one small experience that she had. Some students can do that. Some students need help doing that. But a good college essay does allow you to pull in outside experiences into what you're thinking. It takes time and process. And if you're rushing out before a homecoming football game to go write your college essay, like my nephew did, and my sister was ready to kill him, right? It's not gonna be the best first draft. So do it Thursday night, so then you can enjoy Friday, okay? The pitfalls, which really, this list could go on and on and on. I like to send you the positive messages versus the negative messages. However, I do think there's some really solid ideas here. It's proofread, proofread, proofread. So I read one the other day, and it was the empire of the baseball game, not the umpire. Now, if you like baseball, it might be the umpire. I'm not sure. Or maybe if it was the umpire that felt like he owned the empire, that would be another story. But you just have to watch those pieces. Spell the college's name correctly. So I was at Siena before I went to St. Rose. Can I tell you how many times that we had S-I-E-N-N-A? I'm at College of St. Rose, and there are many times that, well, St. Rose doesn't get actually, it's more when we actually go to a college fair and have to stand in alphabetical line. I have to check the C's, the S's, and the R's, you know. Right, but the college of students get the College of St. Rose, right? But the official name of the College of St. Rose is the College of St. Rose. The official name of Ohio State is the Ohio State, right? The Ohio State. So it's always good to make sure you get the college's name right. More importantly, if you put the college's name in the essay, what's the next thing you want to make sure of? Yeah, send it to the right college. It's as simple as that, but it can happen. I like that one. I got a little laugh over that. So too many details. I sometimes tell people I majored in high school to get my job, right? So it is in 16 years of experience, I know what DECA is, I know what Boy State is, I know what Girl State is, I typically know what the clubs in the high school that you have are, I know what college curriculums are, even if they have multiple colleges' names. It is our job as admissions counselors to understand what types of things happen in high school. So students don't have a lot of space to write, and they spend a lot of time telling the admissions person what that thing is. Explaining what Boy State is, explaining what Girl State is, and explaining that thing. I would say if you're applying out of state, it might be something to submit as like a disclaimer, but that most admissions counselors who read applications for Guilderland High School are going to be familiar with the New York State curriculum, they're going to be familiar with the New York State type of language that we have when we talk about classes and clubs and all of those things. And so I would hesitate to waste good quality space that you're reflecting and really talking about yourself to talk about that thing, because it's a leadership conference and we kind of get those concepts. Too personal. So I always say you can't, if you're not going to share it with grandma, you probably shouldn't share it with the college admissions counselor. Right? I say that, and then somebody had come up to me after my presentation one day and said, my parents had a really tough divorce. Is that too personal? And so I always want to pause at this, because that's not too personal. That helps us, especially if it happens within high school or before, it helps us with the context of the rest of those pieces that we talked about, the rest of the application. So parents' divorce or something really significant like that can affect the grades, can affect the rest of your applications. Maybe you had to move, maybe you couldn't do the same activities because of different pieces. So that is not too personal. Too personal is a date night. I'm good. I don't need to know, right? So there's too personal, like those layers. Significant life events is not too personal. Not answering the question is the other piece. There's questions to be answered. Selective programs that are asking you specifically to define the values of the program that you're applying to and how you have, you have emulated those values, shown those values. Those kinds of questions need to be answered. Because you could miss an opportunity for a program that selects 10% of their applicants and wants you to create a business philosophy for your new company, and it's an entrepreneurship major that you're looking at. If you say, I want to be an entrepreneur because X, Y, and Z, you're not talking about the value in business philosophy. You're talking about why you want to be an entrepreneur. And someone could make that jump, but you have to make sure that you've answered the question for programs that are really selective. Because sometimes that, by not answering it, you're taking yourself out of the running. Mismatched language and skill. So what are the other pieces in a college application where I can tell how your writing probably was? Anybody? We talked about what's in a complete application, yes? Test essays. Yep, the scoring from like the SAT essay and an ELA exam, right? That score might give me the idea that you have a grasp of a language. What are some other grades in the class? So when I read an essay that's really unbelievably beautifully done with lots of really big words in context, and then I look at the grades of a student, I think to myself, You would think, right? That was probably worked and reworked and worked. Maybe by the student, maybe not by the student. What is easily done in the college admissions world is knowing the terminology, the tone, the style of 17-year-olds. Right? They have a different vernacular, they talk a little bit differently. And again, I told you, I majored in high school. So, when you're around them regularly, when you're reading hundreds, thousands of essays, even if they have different academic qualities, they still have a younger tone. They look at the world a little bit differently. So what happens is, the parent will read the essay and say, oh, you gotta put that in. You gotta put this in too. And next thing you know, you're typing. And the student's dictating to you, and you're typing at the computer, and next thing you know, who has written the essay? It internalizes the goal for the parents, and it doesn't internalize the goal for the student. It is the hardest thing to do. It's like watching them drive. Everybody remembers that moment of teaching them how to drive. If they don't internalize the goal, you can't trust that they're gonna know what to do when they get to college. Because the essay's a part of a bigger picture. And are they going to graduate from that college, from a college? And if they can't internalize the goal, it's harder to get to the end, which is 4 years from now. The last thing to avoid, which is hard to avoid unless you take some time and care, is your overuse topics. So Common App a couple years ago switched up the essay questions because we were getting a lot of influential people being the grandparents. And every once in a while we need new questions to read when the admissions counselors have been doing this a really long time. The questions they have now are some of my favorite questions because they really do let the student shine with what they want to present to us. and it takes a little bit more off of the influence of the adult or something in their life. That is, see the piece? So you have the prompts, you have to read those, you have your purpose of the essay, which is really to enlighten us, to tell us about, to tell you, to have you tell us about you. You want to prepare for it. There's some common pitfalls to avoid. And again, that's how important it is it's proofreading. Because sometimes spell check doesn't catch everything. That is the end of my formal presentation. That is my contact information if you'd like to email me, if you have any other questions. But I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have at this point as well. So I smile because there's like phones going up, and this is new to me, but they're taking pictures of the screen. This is what I've learned. Yes?
How much do you think the essay influences the student's admission into the college?
Great. So I did start out with that, right? That it can't get you in, but it potentially. So when the college puts their pieces together, you have the academic fit is the first thing that they'll look for. Typically, you're going to apply to 3 types of schools. There's going to be the match school, which is where your academics match up to their academics in a mid 50% of who they accept. That's your academics match up to the mid 50% of who that college accepts. And when I say mid 50%, I mean GPA and SAT scores. The students that are in the bottom 25% of who gets accepted, so say you're applying to a REACH school, the essay can definitely be a part of who gets accepted out of those REACH schools. The rest of these pieces, absolutely, your extracurricular, your recommendations, all of those things will help you. If you understand the school you're applying is a REACH school, then the essay can tip the scale. If it's a match school, sometimes that essay will help you get additional monies. Sometimes that essay helps you get into an honors English program or history program. If you're applying to what we would consider a likely school, so you're in the top 25% of who gets accepted, that essay can get you into the honors programs, can get you into maybe accelerated tracks. So that's why the essay is still important for those schools where maybe you know you're totally matched up academically, that you know you're a top scholar for that school. There's still opportunities by doing or having a strong essay that can open up some doors. So I would say that middle student, a lot of times it's the essay. I would also say the essay helps with a student that might have had a story to tell. When we look at the transcripts, we really unpack grades. It's numbers, classes and numbers, how they've done. And if a student had something that happened to them throughout the high school experience that they want a little bit more of context to, that essay can help us understand some of those stories. So it really helps within that part. Some students, and I had a student I worked with that had been in an ATV accident. And so he said to me, we were doing an interview, and he said to me, do I have to write my essay? Everybody says, oh my God, I wish, and this is horrible, right? Oh my God, I wish I had that to happen to me because I would have a great essay. And the kid was like, I don't want to write my college essay about this. And I said, that's okay. You don't have to write your college essay about this. If you don't want to write your college essay about this, you do not have to write that, write about that. Because his point was, it's something that happened. And he had about 2 other things that really mattered more to him, and that was what he wanted to write about. I think our conversation gave him the permission to say to the people who I think were a little bit overstepping some boundaries, I'm good, I've got my essay topic, thanks. Because everybody else can run each other's college process really easily, right? You have friends that are saying to you, oh, you can do that, or oh my God, I wish I had this, or I know that, And again, it goes back to the student having to drive it and think about it themselves. I don't get the actual writing piece for the SAT exam, I just see the score. Some colleges might be different, but I think that's typically what happens is we just get the scores of the exam. The college essay that they write themselves would be different because we get the whole context. It would be for that school particularly. So the testing might, in more selective institutions, the testing might be a part of the review process. The testing of the essay for the SATs would be, they want a certain score, but the college essay itself, they're going to be looking more of a comprehensive story about the student. What will happen is if they score in a certain level and the essay is not as strong, they're going to wonder about that. Yes.
If you're applying to, let's say, 5 to 10 colleges, and you have one essay, and then by virtue of not being able to quite answer the question that each of the colleges are looking for, would you suggest having to update the essay to match the question for each of the?
It always depends on the institutions. So when I say answer the question that they're looking for, it's not typically the common application questions or the general questions. The common application questions are built to be able to submit one essay to multiple institutions. That's why they're built that way. When I talk about answering the specific question, it's typically the question that's coming from a direct college. So there might be a secondary question on the common, they have a common application, and then on the member page, there's specific questions the student has to answer. It's a second essay. Yeah, and that, if you apply to 10 colleges and each of them have a specific question for their own application and you really want to get into those schools, that you have to take the time or figure out how to reduce your list in order to have the best essay, to have the best application. Yeah, so the Common App is built for the general, and then a lot of times the colleges have their own specific questions, whether it's short answer, whether it's not. It might be another long essay, which is why deadlines matter. So definitely go in now, look at the applications, see if there's other questions. Because what you don't want to happen on September 31st is to get in there and realize there's 3 other essays or 3 other short answers that you have to write. Because that makes everyone anxious in the household, right? Yep.
Can you update your essay and say you have a college that has an early deadline?
Yep.
You submit your essay, then you keep working on it and improve it for the others.
And you can
you resubmit?
You can resubmit to colleges you haven't finished the submission for yet. So you can attach a new essay and send that. If you've submitted to the college early, got a decision, and then realized there's other opportunities like an honors program, an accelerated program that happens maybe in January, a lot of times you can submit your new essay, you can update your information through the admissions office. You can email the admit office and say, can you put this in my file? I'm planning to go for the review process, and I would rather have them read that essay. Yeah. So once it's submitted, you can't go back in and submit the Common App again to the same school or any application again, but you can use the admissions office's contact information to get updated information. Yes.
So for writing wise, I'm kind of to be a little more sarcastic, have my personality on there. Should it be like that, or should it be more professional and serious and not short kind of fun?
The question was, when I tend to write, I'm a little bit more sarcastic than when, in humor, right? Like you're more sarcastic, a little bit more, you have some humor. Can I do that, right? Or should it be more professional? Should it be more kind of straight and narrow? There's two answers to that part. One is, it depends on the college you're applying to. Right, so the mission, the kind of vibe, the culture of the college, which is why video essays are actually kind of populating with some of these, with more creative schools, because sometimes that's how you express yourself, right? So the mission of the college that you're applying to matters when you're thinking about, does that fit for me? I would back it up and say the mission of college matters because do you want to be in a place that doesn't kind of fit who you are? Right, so the vibe of that college sometimes helps you reduce your list. So if you're kind of sarcastic, a little bit humorous, and feel like you can properly write that way, then if you think the college would be receptive to that, you can absolutely submit in some of those ways. Where I've seen students miss, because students have missed, it could be a pitfall, is how you say something to someone and how they perceive it allows you to experience the tone, the facial recognition, the nonverbal experience. If you write it and it comes across badly, sometimes it misses. Sometimes you miss it. So that you sound just nasty or mean versus just sarcastic, right? So I would be careful with it, but it's not to say that if that's who you are, it's not to say that you can't try that writing. Why it matters more is to give it to other people, to have them read it and to ask those questions. What did you learn about me? Because you don't want to hurt your chances either. It's like a text message. So sometimes you get that text message and you have no idea how to read that text message from your mother or something like that, right? My mom still texts me and I'm thinking, oh my God, what does she need? No, but you have that response and the essay would be the similar. But if you can do it right, and if it fits who you are, dry sense of humor, then as long as it's self-reflected, it's sincere, it's thoughtful, then go for it. If you sound like Holden Caulfield in Catcher in the Rye, too much. No. Anything else? Oh, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, Dr. Cohen.
You're good.
As far as narrowing down topics, should it be more like kind of activities that you are involved in, what you do with your free time, or should it be more towards like why you want to get involved in what you're interested in? You know what I mean?
Yep. So the question is, should it be more about what you've done, or should potentially be more about where you're going in some ways, right? So is it more activities-based, what you're proud of, what you've done, or could the essay lead to why you want to go into the medical field, or why you want to go into someplace, PT or something along those lines? The answer really comes back to you, which is with all of the pieces that you're putting together in your application, what do you want us to know more about? And sometimes the activities that you've done in high school actually are the reasons why, connected to what your future career could be. If it was an essay from a certain school that was asking why women should be engineers, that might be the one that I pick, right, as a career base. Because I want to explain why I want to go be that engineer, and I'm going to make an impact in the field. But if it was a college that has more of a community service base, it could go to the mission of the college, more community service base, more of an involvement on campus. It might be what I've done in the past, and then connected to what opportunities are there. If it's the Common App question, then I would stick to what those prompts are. They typically don't ask you forward or backward on that, and it fits for all colleges. But if you were answering a specific college question, what activities have you done in high school, then you might want to relate those activities from high school to the college that you're attending. Unfortunately, the answer really comes down, there's always two answers you'll hear from every admissions counselor. One is, it depends on the college, and two is, it depends on you. It really comes down to what you want to tell us about what you think is something that we want to know. Yep.
These three application types, do most colleges take all three, or do they only participate in one?
No, most colleges will take the Common App. It's around 600, I think 700 colleges will take the Common Application. The SUNY App, actually those questions I didn't even put on there, I should have. So the SUNY application is the State University of New York application. They'll have essay questions as well. They typically, I think, reflect the Common App questions. So you could use Common App for SUNY App as well. The Universal and the Coalition are more elite colleges. It doesn't mean the application is more elite. It means that how it was created came out of some different things. But I didn't know if people were using that, and I didn't Sometimes we always talk about common, and so I just wanted to make sure I was showing you a variety of essay questions. Most of you probably have already talked to your school counselor about how you want to apply, and I would keep it there. Colleges and universities abide by what we call our standard principles of good practice. So no college application has a benefit over the other. However a student applies to your institution, that is the application that we review with all the supporting credentials to make a decision. So there's no benefit to different applications. One of those rules of ethics that we have. Anything else? I'll be here. If you have any questions, please come on down. You've got my email, you've got my phone number, so please give me a call. And thank you very much for doing a good job.